Good evening to everyone and greetings from rainy Bangkok. We are again here to talk about Myanmar and about what is happening now. I think now more than ever is important to really learn about what is happening as Myanmar is in the background of public attention, especially these days. The media are full of the news of the death of Queen Elizabeth, and we forget about what is happening in our neighboring countries. So we still continue to keep an eye on what is happening in Myanmar, and we are grateful for Khin for being willing to be with us again to share her precious time, especially because she has had some health problems. We had postponed this event. She's still not fully recovered, but she's here with us again, willing to share about what is happening. As for those who don't know, Khin she is a well-known activist and peace and women activist. So please, Khin is your floor, or the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Leah. Thanks to SEA Junction, and also keeping the Burma-Myanmar agenda on your like the on organizations events, and thanks to all of you for joining. And yeah, I'm really sorry that I had to cancel it the last time, and just my health got to the point that I couldn't keep up anymore. But I'm slowly but coming back to my routine. So yeah, thanks for bringing me back here. So I know some of our friends regularly join here, and we probably have also some new friends, but I know this is being live stream as well. So today I'm thinking of like sharing with you one story that is that like a story about somebody who inspired me. I've been a human rights democracy activist since I was a student back in 1988, right? So I think some of you already know that it's been more than 30 years, and I am such a stubborn person, because as long as Burma Myanmar doesn't move forward, my life just really don't move forward. I feel like I'm in this, like, it's just like I'm with the Burma or Myanmar. It's like my life is there. So along the path of the 30 plus years of my activism, there are always, I find individuals always inspire me and give me strength and keep moving. So like my focus is always it's never waved, like it's always very, very firm and focused. And I always appreciate these individuals. Today, I want to share with you and with my appreciation, I want to share with you a story of a poet, a Burmese poet, Kathy. Because last year, when the Spring Revolution started, I was actually, basically right somewhere very nearby, and I, my day and night, I just try to do what I can, started, really mobilize the international solidarity friends that, I've been in touch and connected to for the past 20 plus 30 years, who've been doing their great Burma advocacy campaign works, and they continue to do the great work. So we have come together and, also at the same time, really try to lend my support to those young generations, the Generation Z, Gen Z, and, the Spring Revolution in the country. So one day, of course, the Myanmar, the military junta started all their regular routine of their the violent attacks on the peaceful demonstrators, the young people, by like late February, I think, and then March, April. So that were already quite the increase of the violence from the military side, where like a lot of these arrests and then like killing and murdering within like a 24 hours or within a day or two. So basically, there were 2 poets were killed on the spot by like towards March, and then this poet behind me on the screen backdrop. His name is Kathy, and he is a poet from the Sakai region. And I think those of you who follow Myanmar closely will immediately know the Sakai is under severe attacks for all the past months, where the like thousands of villages been burned down, where the local people said there are no more villages to burn down in Sakai. Yeah. So Kathy is from Sakai. So when he was arrested in mid-May, within 24 hours, he was killed. And then his wife was asked to come and get his body. He was the 3rd poet, Burmese poet, to be killed during the Spring Revolution. So his body was brought back. His heart was missing. And before he was arrested, he actually wrote, like there are a lot of good, really like a strong revolutionary inspiring poems that he already wrote and posted and viral on the social media. And then one of the very short, like one of the most famous line that he posted on social media is, "They don't know revolution dwells in heart. They shoot us in the head, but they don't know the revolution dwells in heart." And he wrote that because the haunted troops were actually, the snipers were really targeting the leading activist at the front line of the protest, directly aiming and shooting to the head with the sole purpose of killing, as we can all see. Then he wrote this, then he got arrested, and his heart was removed. He was killed in less than 24 hours. I really it really gave me so much of the anger, of course, but also reflection of how this military, from our time in 1988 and time before our generations in 1962 and 1976. So all along, when they committed such violence, and then at the time of the 21st century, when Myanmar Burma was known to the world as setting out to the democracy with that transition, I was thinking, like, such brutality, barbaric brutality. How could that happen? Yeah, how could that happen? So basically, like this military, I have observed all along, never stepped down from this holding grudge against the people, whether individual or collective, that they will always, take the revenge. So poet Kathy, who inspires so many people with his poems, was basically, it was a revenge. It was a punishment, but also a revenge, because he also inspired the people so much. And he actually, he really touched my heart, is because I only learned by then, I didn't know that he actually wrote about the Gudabian village killing in the Rohingya villagers killing, the mass killing in Gudabian village. He wrote about that. I didn't know that until then. And I'm like, it was like eye-opening for me, is because, when the genocide against the Rohingya happened in 2017, most of the people in the country, the world see that the international community saw as the most of the Myanmar people are in support of the genocide. Even Daw Aung San Suu Kyi was seen as in support of the genocide. It's because also there was this the ultra-nationalist, the Buddhist movement, the ultra-nationalist Buddhist movement led by this so-called monk, Wiradhu, and who was in like a public support like organizing, as you will all remember. So poet Kathy, who is a Buddhist and Burma, the Burman majority, who actually then I learned that he will make friends with he stood on his virtue, like he will be friends with the people who don't discriminate the others. It's a very human kind of, like this, I didn't know that. Anyway, I started with this today is because, like last month I was I was sick. Yeah. So he gave me some time to also reflect. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, this is a person that I wanted to share with you his story because he's, like when the poets are known as, I'm sure poets are known as the soft-hearted people, but also I see them like once they set out something and believe in and set out something, they will go all the way. Yeah. So it's such a powerful spirit that I carry with me. So yeah, with that, I want to share with you where things are now in the country. I missed to give you the update last month, so I'll just give you very quickly, very, very short, but also, bring into the September where we are now. So last month, as much as I was really sick, there were things that, really, it was not on my plate before the month that got onto my plate that I had to, together with my colleagues, civil society actors and human rights democracy activists, human rights defenders, civil societies, in partnership with our organization, Progressive Voice, we had to respond. And that's like unexpectedly. One was there were 12 INGOs actually they actually sent a letter to the junta, then the Myanmar military junta, and the leader of the junta, Min Aung Hlaing, and inviting the junta to give comments on this education thing, that the UN conference is coming up. So we had to we were shocked, of course, and then we had to respond. And then we got the explanation that was an administrative error. But not all of them actually, there were 12, only 2 who've been our closest allies in the human rights world. Of course, the Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, the colleagues, they responded. But the other 10 organizations, it's really something. It's really something. They didn't even bother responding to us directly. They didn't even bother responding to us with a courtesy at all. But then, okay, just to move on. So the apology, along with the apology, then the explanation was the administrative error. We sent a second letter, basically, calling for a proper action from their end, so that we also see them as allies to our cause, for not only for Myanmar but also for the cause of the human rights struggles all over the world. We need them to be, we need them to be at the front, as they have always been, but also we need them to be at the front with to keep up with the principles that we preach, yeah, like accountability, for example. So anyway, so that was one thing. The other thing was also the UN Special Envoy visiting Myanmar military juntas. That was another challenging situation as the Myanmar civil society that we had to deal with. So I'm sure some of you have seen. If not, please check on our website. More than 860 organizations actually joined an open letter, a statement about in response to the UN Special Envoy's visit. And our call was on the UN General Assembly to terminate this UN Special Envoy position. And it came from more than 20 years of our experience and reflections on various previous special envoys as well. In the past, there were a total of 4 special envoys appointed by the UN Secretary General at a different time in the different moments. Yeah, but now is the 5th. And this position is the carry on from the mandate, carry on from the last year. Sorry, carry on from the time of the Rohingya crisis, and now being carry on to the Spring Revolution crisis, the current crisis, and the highest magnitude of the crisis, compared to the previous special envoys who had to deal with. Yeah, so we had back and forth discussions, consultations, assessment, and we realized that the UN special envoy, UN's General Assembly is coming back actually in next 3 days. The General Assembly will open, and this General Assembly will, at the end, will adopt another resolution on Myanmar in which the special envoy's mandate will be extended. And we feel that, we strongly feel that this is the time we raise our voice. This position is not relevant to the current crisis, and this position, no matter who comes, it's not about the current special envoys and how much of the credential and capacity that she has. It doesn't really matter. It's because the mandate is so vague and limited. And to respond to or address to the crisis, this multidimensional crisis of this level of magnitude, no, we don't see that is working. No. And also we see that this Secretary General has been so ineffective and so his leadership, there is nothing much for us to really to look forward really. But we know that if he take up the issue as a matter of urgency and priority in his hand, like previous UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon did, then we know some things, if not all, will move. But having a special envoy is like a secondary, we see that as a secondary. The Secretary General is assigning somebody else to deal with a crisis when the crisis is way beyond, in fact, is the need of the Security Council to deal with, basically. So yeah, so that's another major challenge that we had in the month of August. But then, of course, there was a moment of the 5th year commemoration of the Rohingya genocide remembrance on 24th of August. There were lots of activities, including the protesters in Myanmar holding the protest, holding the signs and banners, saying that there is no discrimination of race and religion, that they're not going to accept race and religion discrimination. But I was a little bit hoping that I was hoping to continue to see more of the banners in the country in solidarity, in support of the Rohingya people with the name Rohingya. Yeah, but I didn't see this that time that much. But our civil society organizations, more than 300 Myanmar CSOs joined the statement. Compared to last year, we had like 40, but this year we had more than 300 join the statement in solidarity and support of the Rohingya community. And that was actually a huge encouragement to see that. But also the Myanmar's government, the National Unity Government, also held a consultation with the Rohingya refugees from the camp. And I think that was a right action, right step in the right direction, but it is already a delayed step because I've been calling for the NUG to hold such kind of, consultation, or like, I mean, there are different actions that I see the NUG can take concretely to show their commitment to the policy paper that they produced last year, which is a great step already, recognizing the Rohingya in their name. Also, the pledge to amend the amend the 1982 citizenship law, which is a major impediment, of course, depriving of the Rohingyas right, the basic right of belonging to this country. So yeah, I mean, that was good to see the NUG talking to the Rohingya community. But yes, there are more to do that we want them to do more. So now I want to share with you some of the things, because we are getting so close to the second year round of credentials at the UN. Like the UN General Assembly will have to decide who represents Myanmar. Yeah. Last year, the General Assembly deferred the decision of who represents Myanmar, meaning like whether the junta or the National Unity Government. They defer that decision and continue to recognize the Ambassador Ujamoton, who been assigned by Daw Aung San Suu Kyi in the past government time. So he, as an incumbent ambassador, continue. But of course, the whole world, including the United Nations, the whole world knows Ambassador Ujamoton is the ambassador of the NUG. It is very clear. And yet, we're not seeing the UN taking another step as they should and needed to really decide who really represents the Myanmar state, rather than keeping the Ambassador Ujamoton as ambassador from previous government. The time has come, I would say this time they should really do it, because we are getting very frustrated on the ground, is because for the Ambassador Ujamoton continuing in the UN, it should be representing in full-fledged diplomatic mandate and immunity, where that he will be able to, for example, that he should be able to represent Myanmar in other UN organs, as well as also having for example, like to speak in the they call the high level week, which is the week of the September 23rd, or the last week, where the UN member states, the head of the state or the foreign minister, or the ambassador who represents the foreign minister and the state, to speak, to take the floor to speak. And that's our rightful space for Myanmar state, Myanmar people. But last year, Ambassador Ujamoton didn't have a chance to do that. And this is also because the UN was not making the decision yet, that they are still, they are still at the very early stage of the credential committees to come up with a decision or the recommendation to the UNGA. So we understand that time, maybe that was the early time. But I think at this time, the UN should really be quite decisive and allowing the Ambassador Ujamoton to speak on behalf of the Myanmar people and the National Unity Government representative. And so that's something for us to wait and see. And there are a lot of public campaigns are being carried out. I think probably by now is like quite a large number. Sorry, I forgot to get the number where they are now. More than 100,000 at least being signed on the petition. Whereas also there are a lot of public campaigns both in the country as well as diaspora internationally are already carrying out. Like even in the Sakai region under the severe attacks, people been marching on the, in their areas or out on the streets in the, out open in the public areas, holding signs with Ujamotons, photo and NUGs, to represent to represent them in the UN, right? So I think there's a lot of these people's voices, Myanmar people's voices on the ground really need to be listened by these UN people up there, which I am so frustrated that they don't seem to be doing that. That's one thing. I will come back to the whole UN, the concern that we have UN overall. But now let me turn to your attention to September 7th, we just had 3 days ago. That was the first anniversary of the Myanmar's defense war. Myanmar's defense war declared by the government against this terrorist military junta. So there were also the public speech from the Ministry of Defense, also from the acting president, and that's been also viral. That there's the presidential address to the public was also very important, where in which the president actually also laid out the important time for the Myanmar Spring Revolution, the revolution to the importance of the timing in the from here to 2023 as like that's the time that as a timeline for the as a decisive time or for the revolution. So with that, what I'm also observing on the ground is that there's so much like casualty from the Myanmar military side. It's really large number, because you can imagine the armed resistance by the NUG People's Defense Force, and also the ethnic resistance or the revolutionary organizations in combined, and also there are these like urban guerrilla warfare. Some are actually already launched, already doing in their different various cities, for example. So according to the some of the data from the Myanmar media, like the Democratic Voice of Burma, for example, there are at least like more than 20,000 casualty from the military junta side, and also more than 7,000 injured. But that can be also an underestimated number, because there are, because the military don't expose any of that information, yeah. But this is also, I can see that the media, the independent media, are able to gather as much as they can and verify. So I can see that. But also, of course, there are casualty from the People's Revolution side. I think it's something like 1,500 or a little over something, 1,500. So that 1,500 who are basically who died in the armed resistance. So if you look at the number of people who were killed or who've been killed, who are the the protesters, or who are in the prison, or the political activists, democracy activists, there were more than 2,200, yeah, at least. So now we have also 1,500 that these are the Spring Revolution heroes, the martyrs. But then there are civilians who are also killed in the different areas where the airstrikes or the artillery shellings or like that happening, including recently in Rakhine. As I don't know, some of you I'm sure follow, the Myanmar military junta has been sending reinforcements, both the Russians and people and the military warfares to Rakhine state, to fight to get into this fighting with the Arakan army. So there are also the civilians casualties started there also. Yeah, so that's where we are actually on the ground. So this is the military side, right? But also I'm also seeing the people's normalcy of their life being carrying on, like even in Sagaing, under the extreme violence from the military side, that villages being burned down and mass destruction and mass killings, and also rapes, military rapes there. So with all of that, you're seeing the people carrying on with children going to school. The revolution, the setting up the local administrations in Sagaing and Magui and Chin, and so that's had add up to what previously existed of the ethnic arms revolutionary organizations control areas or their own territories that been existed forever. We call them as liberated areas. So now we can even see that there are liberated areas expanded, or like self-administration have been formed in many areas where there are health services, where there are education services already happening, social services, social functions like the monsoon, rainy season, sports festivals, for example. People are doing that. So this is something that we need to see where Myanmar is at the moment. And just coming back one point that I find it quite interesting is also even the young women revolutionaries. They have formed the women revolutionary groups themselves, and including there is a group called the drone, like women drone groups, drone force. So they built the drone. They built the drone that they built the drone to actually fight the hunter, and I think these are the things quite also unexpected for the military hunter, no? And also they are spreading quite thin themselves by sending troops here and there, north and east and south and west, and so I can imagine of how much also the military Myanmar must be having a nightmare. I would say having a nightmare at the same time. I think you can probably check on his face, on his face when he was meeting with Putin just last week, or this week, I forgot the dates. So he gave this speech, just a few days ago, in this the economic forum, where he also met with Putin, and then he was praising Putin for his leadership for the world, But you look at his face, Myanmar's face, you can see the stress on his face. You can see how much is underneath, So I think that for this military doesn't even have the force that they claim to have, especially they are not able to recruit anymore, right? But also there are more and more defectors just keep coming and joining the Myanmar government, the people's revolution side. They are coming from not only from the army but also from the Air Force, even Navy. So Navy, Navy, and also many have been joining. So there are also efforts from the government side and the ethnic armed revolutionary organization side, try to rescue them with their families and supporting them when they get into the liberated areas. And so I think that people to people solidarity within the revolution has come to be more and more stronger, I would say, with, of course, naturally being human beings, there are also frustrations among the people, young generation, that they feel like, they yes, I mean, they want to have more arms to fight them in this military. They think that, with all their trainings, if they have arms, they can actually end this, this military tyranny sooner, right? And return to the country's path to the right direction. So yeah, I mean, that's totally also understandable. But I think at this point, what is really important is this people's solidarity is good to be going, is coming to be more stronger and stronger. And the army side, the military side, they have taken so much internal measures, because they see that their soldiers, not even their rank and file, is coming to the commander level. The colonel level or the commander level are also, defecting. Yeah. So it's quite the number must be quite small now. Yeah, I know I'm taking more time here. Sorry about that. So I'm coming to my last session with all of that, is that what is challenging is that there are so much advancement of the people's movement on the ground, both politically and also militarily. Including even the NUG foreign minister was having meeting with the foreign minister in the Czech, the Germany, So we're seeing more of this political advancement as well. But what is the problem now is the international organizations or the UN agencies started to be signing the agreement or submitting the credentials to the junta, meaning that these agencies and actors are giving the legitimacy to the junta and treating them as if this junta is the Myanmar state's representative or the de facto government kind of thing. And this all very interesting also, these all came one after another after the visit of the UN Special Envoy. And that's something that we are very worried to see that it's already happening. The UN FAO, UNICEF, UN OCHA, the humanitarian aid coordination, but also just today is the IOM. Yeah, you're right. So basically, what does it tell? What are they doing? What are they doing to the Myanmar people? And is it they just want to be walking with the junta, like totally disregarding of this country's population, their sacrifices and efforts? I have to say that their actions are totally undercutting and undermining the Myanmar people's efforts and sacrifices that they're making for their own country. So that's where I want to end today with my talk. And I have a very quick 3 minutes message to show to you from the same youth group from the last time. And yeah, I just want to show that video now, and then we have probably 10 minutes to for if you have any questions. Already. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So, yeah. Okay. Sorry.
No. It was quite interesting, but okay, let's watch the video.
Sure.
And then.
Democracy must rebuild. Since the first day of the revolution, we have asked for international solidarity and support for our revolution. We still demand this or disappointed not to have received support so far. However, we must insist at the minimum that the international organization like the UN must refuse to recognize the coup regime. If the international organization cannot make up its mind to take any action in support of the Grand Revolution, that at least it must not take any action in support of the dictatorship. The UN must retain the current Myanmar ambassador, John Moulton, who has held that position since before the coup, and free to continue allegiance or elected its military government. As long as the UN takes no action against us by removing our ambassador, at least it is clear that we have international law on our side, a strong basis on which to continue to seek real assistance for our revolution. as long as the UN does not recognize the coup regime, then at least the dictatorship in Myanmar will remain isolated. Other countries will be afraid to openly give it too much assistance, to openly give it too much military assistance. And save the lives of civilians. But recent action by the UN have been alarming. The UN Special Envoy, Neuland Hazen, came here last month to meet with the leaders of the Pacific coup conspiracy while refusing to meet with the representative of elected NUG government or any other representative of Myanmar People's Democracy. And last week, the UN FAO representative met with the coup conspirators to discuss working on disaster relief for refugees. Even though it is the coup forces who are burning down hundreds of villages to create the refugees in Myanmar, all the supporters of all the countries, we issue a stark warning about this road. The United Nations is going down. We Myanmar revolutionaries have been as frustrated with UN inaction as many have, but now it is taking steps which are much worse. The principles of democracy are under threat around the world today. If the UN gives legitimacy to the coup forces in Myanmar, who have been successfully trying to return the country to the dictatorship, even in the face of massive popular resistance, the UN refuses even to meet with the representative of elected NUG government, which continues to administer large parts of Myanmar. This will embolden the fascist forces all over the world. Where the entire structure of international organization since the Second World War supposed to be to uphold democracy and human rights in favor of authoritarianism and terrorism, lead to many more coups, threatening democracy everywhere. Democracy must be built. Zero! Zero! Zero!
I think the message is very clear, and we have a question related to that. So I will start with that question. Many countries or UN people argue they have to engage with the military government to be able to provide aid or support to the people or other activity in the country to the benefit of the people. So what do you think of that, of the need to engage? That is the first question. The second, from our friend from the milk. So we have a lot of questions, few people, but a lot of questions. So I will divide it. But this one from the Milk Tea Alliance. What can we do to support the Credential Committee fight? And are the other members of the Credential Committee known yet already or not yet? This is the second question. And the third question, heard a lot recently about the new surveillance system in Yangon and other major city. Is this causing any problem? So these are the first three questions. We have other questions. So try to answer shortly so we have another round.
Thank you. I'll start with the last question. So yes, surveillance been set up. So is it a problem? Yes, it is a problem. Definitely. I think that this is something the movement or the revolution will need to come up with a plan to cope with. I think the young people who are so savvy with the tech IT, I think they are already working on it, which I don't know the details, but I think they are working on it. But then the second question, what was it? Sorry, I forgot.
The second question was about the Credential Committee.
Oh yes,
What can be
The
done?
committee members are not announced yet, but of course there are 3 permanent members. We know the US, China, and Russia. That are the other 6 we don't know yet not until the session opens on the 13th. But I think internally, I'm sure it's already they already selected. But I don't know who are the other 6 at this point. How can you support the credential? Is I would say that there are, like I said, there are diaspora communities, whether here in US or elsewhere, they are very strong, already holding, planning to hold the demonstrations in front of the UN. Also, these petitions. The petition is another one. But if you are with the civil society organizations, like the Progressive Voice, we did one open letter last year, and I think quite a few hundreds of organizations also joined, sending the letter to the GA member states. So there are some of those actions. I would say for something like this, public action, joining the public action will be best. There is also the changing the Facebook profile in support of this campaign, also that you can also look into that. If you actually look for this Myanmar credential campaign, you will see many of these things with the messages. So I would say joining the public campaigns are the best at this point. But also, if you are if you have access to your foreign ministries, please send a message. We had a meeting. 6 of us had a meeting on the 7th with the Malaysian foreign minister, and we actually called for his support, his ministry, his country's support for the credential for Ambassador Jomboton and NUG, and we need the capitals to hear that. So if you are with your countries, wherever you are, make sure that your voice is heard directly by the foreign minister and foreign ministry in particular. Yeah. And the very first question, now I forgot.
The very first question, I also forgot.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, actually was related to what you were saying. I mean, there are people who say that the UN has to engage with the current junta because is in the interest of the people of Myanmar. Otherwise, they would not be able to provide assistance, etc. So, what is your response to that?
Yeah. So basically, the interest. People always say in the interest of Myanmar. What is it? Is it something that Myanmar people tell them or not? But let's look at the will of the Myanmar people here. The will of the Myanmar people have been very clear that they don't want this junta. They want to be free forever from this military tyranny, and that's the bottom line here. So that is something, that's the will of the people of Myanmar. But then if we want to take that step to the interest of the interest of the Myanmar is actually, yes, if they want to talk about like aid or assistance, of course, the Myanmar people would like to have the aid and assistance, right? It's not that they don't want or they don't need, they do need it. But what they are saying and what they are calling for is don't get into the hands of the military because we're not going to get it. But not only that, giving into the hands of the military will actually further embolden this military and further entrench these systemic oppressive apparatuses and institutions that will further prolong this military, just like what happened before 2010, more than 20 years of the military rule. And these UN agencies and INGOs knowingly, for example, like humanitarian aid, knowingly that humanitarian aid will not get to the most needy people, like in the conflict areas, who are the most vulnerable, but giving it to the military. So then what does it mean? It is the local responders, local civil society with the like-minded donors, individual donors, including some of the countries who have to take care of it through the border assistance. Like I just tell you one thing. The Refugees International, based in Washington, D.C., came out with a report very recently, and in which, in their research, they found that more than $1 million being for the humanitarian aid being reached to the 1 million people. Sorry, I forgot the details now. You have to excuse me for that. I'm getting bad with some of those numbers. So my point here, the very point that I want to make is, it really is the people on the ground in their solidarity connections, people to people solidarity. They are the ones who are responding to the crisis. Support them. Give it to them, those resources, and they are with the communities, and they will get that to the communities. So not having access through the hunter, but signing MOU with the hunter, it doesn't make sense, right? I mean, in fact, it actually is breaching of their own principles of the humanitarian aid, breaching of their own policy that they have, like that they are not to be engaging with the Myanmar military junta, because even the UN has not decided who represent Myanmar. Why will these agencies sign the MOUs? It doesn't make sense. But just to conclude your question is, people's interest include the need, but those needs, those essential basic needs, can be covered, can be channeled to them through the local responders, in collaboration and consultation with their government, that is the national unity government, but also for the ethnic communities in liberated areas, that will be the ethnic armed revolutionary organizations. They are there, they have the structures, they have the governance, they have the mechanisms, and all these local responders, humanitarian actors on the ground, they have been working on this, they have experience for a long time, they have the system, they have the experience, and most importantly, they have the trust from the people. So if we want to talk about the interest of the people, we have to make sure that it is, are we talking about the interest of the international groups in their own assessment, or the real interest of the people on the ground with their local agency and capacity, with the will to resist this military? I think that needs to be differentiated. Yeah.
So we don't have time for all the questions, but just to follow up on this last, if indeed we do not agree with the way the UN is now presenting the ambassador and UN, they are the international kind of starting to recognize the junta, or it looks at the least this way. What can be done to, besides writing letter like you have done and Progressive Voice has done and many NGO have done, but is there another way of getting to the UN to make clear that this is not the way to go around? This is the question. Then another question is, are any country and international organization mentoring and building the capacity of the NUG? There are other questions, but I will stop with these two for today, and we keep the other one for the next monthly event.
Yeah, thank you. The second question, I would think so, no? I would think so, but since I'm not an NUG, I won't be able to answer that question. But I would think so, that they have supports from the international. So what do we do to really effectively respond to these international, the UN agencies' wrong, senseless actions like such MOU signing and credential submission stuff? I think the most important, the most effective at this point is we need to reach out to the foreign ministries of different like-minded countries or the democracy countries. Then they need to intervene, because we can see that like these agencies can sign these MOUs and they are under the Secretary General, right, by administration. So we know that Secretary General is hopeless at this point. So what we do is I think we need to really get the different member states to act. And that means we need to get the message to or engage with the foreign ministries of different countries like the EU, the US, UK, Australia, Japan, Canada, Germany. And it's really encouraging to see that Germany and UK joined the ICJ, for example, the ICJ court case, and also the UK step up with the some concrete actions like the increased targeted sanctions against the military cronies. I think that's really good. And now we see that Germany started to also step up. And in fact, if you remember, Germany already expelled the military attaché, no? They basically asked the military attaché to leave, for example. So there are certain countries that we need, the individual countries, whether individually or collaboratively, need to step up. They need to step up and bring that agenda into the UN. I think if you will talk to your governments, particularly the foreign ministry in particular, I think we need this message out in all means possible, publicly, privately, and we also need more allies. In that case, we need the human rights community to actually also act out of their own box. You know, yes, talk about human rights violations, but for how long? For how many generations? We don't want, what we want is we want to be able to stop. We want to be able to stop from having to talk about the human rights violations. That's what we want, you know? So for that, these international human rights organizations also need to have a creative way, but also to really support the people on in the same page by getting the message right to those policymakers that they have more access than us. And they have to tell the humanitarian organizations. Sometimes when we talk to them, they say, oh, the donors. I said, well, the donors will listen if you talk to them, if you are on the same page with us, on the same message with us, tell them, you know. But I think my last point, I am seeing so much of this barrage of the ego, the ego baggage, really big. And that's where I think is something that we also need to really knock the doors, because there is a long struggle, not only for Burma, Myanmar, no? So anyway, yeah, I think please, if you are, you know, even write a letter directly to the foreign ministry, please do, that they need to hear directly from you. Thank you.
It's a good example, at the least, of trying to do what you are preaching now. I think with just Cecilia Brighi, who is here with us, from Italia Birmania, Italy, Myanmar. She just shared that they have written with the Italian Minister of Foreign Affairs, and they will have a meeting next week on this issue of credential. Now, of course, Italy is preparing for the election. Who knows what is the interest at this point of time, but still, this is the kind of efforts that are necessary. I also want to share that on the 14th at SEA Junction, we will have an in-person event in which a report will be presented, this ILO report, which is on exactly on this issue of how to better support unions and civil societies in Myanmar after the coup. And this report has already gotten the attention of the Myanmar junta, which has criticized it and say that what is there on the unions is not accurate, is false. Now we have just shared in the chat room the link of the report, but Ben Arkins of ILO will discuss it on the 14th at 5:30 at SEA Junction, and we have taken also this occasion to discuss more broadly about how to support civil society and union in Southeast Asia, because the restrictive space is not only in Myanmar, but it's also more generally to different degree, but civil society space is shrinking also in other countries in the region. So we have taken this occasion to discuss more widely, but the report will also be officially launched. It's a very brief, it's not really a report, it's a brief of 5 pages, very short to read, but it makes the point that it is extremely important to continue to support directly this local organization. So let's hope that ILO doesn't offer its credential to the junta and continue to support civil society actors. With this, thank you again, Ohmar, for this dance, and I understand that it's not easy to be here with us, and it's also quite emotional for you in this particular time, so I really am thankful for you making this effort to share even your frustration and your feelings about what is happening with the country. We continue to be with you, and we continue to do our little, what we can do in our capacity, and I think it's the same for the people that listen to you today. We will also share, and please, for those who are with us, help us share this video so that more people can listen to what Khin Ohmar has to say, and see you in better conditions in 1 month's time.
Yeah,
Bye
thank
bye.
you. Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Ciao Cecilia, arrivederci.